Yeah, that's right, we are back. And welcome to this longer format video where I run through my experiences whilst trying to learn to ride the vert ramp. Now, this is one of the most psychologically and physically demanding things I've ever tried to do. And there's sections on the very early stages, all the manoeuvres to learn before trying to learn the dreaded vert ramp drop-in. There's also a section on building a dedicated vert ramp skateboard setup. And it finishes up with a detail of my first ever skateboarding contest. Now, this is a bit of a risky business learning to ride the vert ramp, so there's plenty of crashes to behold. And I'd love to hear of your experiences trying to learn the vert ramp, or if you were inspired to give the vert ramp a go. I was inspired by riders like Tony Hawk and also the X Games competition. I also really like modern riders like Jimmy Wilkins. So enough of my yakking, without further ado, let's get cracking. First job was to refresh my knee slide. Now, I learnt to knee slide fairly early on, but recently I sustained a knee injury and it meant that I couldn't knee slide anymore because I just didn't have the flexibility. However, skating the vert ramp really requires that knee slide to get out of attempting tricks. So I decided to get the yoga going, get that knee working again, and I tried a few knee slides. To do this, I got up on the top of the ramp and launched myself in. Now, I have to say, this is terrifying, but it's a really good exercise for getting confidence that those knee pads will work. To start with, I did it from a seated position and dropped in. And then I tried it from a standing position. Had to remember to commit to these though, because if you don't commit, you can slide out onto your hip. I remembered the key point was to really thrust my knees out in front, lean the torso back, and also try and let the heels hit onto the buttocks. I also found the elbow pads came in handy if I lost my balance on the knees, or if I came out of a manoeuvre and span round and came down the ramp backwards. Next job was to learn how to get going. Now, I've always liked the way the old school full pipe riders start their runs, and that's to run up the transition, place the board down, and then do a cheeky little hop on. This provides lots of transition to pump down to get that back and forth started. Trouble is, I had absolutely no idea where to start. So luckily, Greg gave me a few tips, and these were to run up the transition, place the board down so that all four wheels were touching the ramp, swish it past a little bit more than you think you need to, and then jump both feet on, keep your knees bent, and then pump away. To start with, I was absolutely nowhere near on this. I found it way harder than it looks. The first mistake I made was over-committing forwards. So place the board down and then fall off the front. Then I overcompensated, too far backwards, shot out, and then the board went flying straight across the ramp. After a little bit of practice, however, I managed to find that sort of happy medium, and I got used to placing the board down, not kicking it with my back foot when I jumped on, which was another issue. And eventually I managed to get it far enough up to get a decent pump and a decent amount of speed straight away. The next stage was to practice pumping backwards and forwards, coming down fakie and then going forwards and then back up. Now, I've never done this before. I always just used to go straight into backside kick turns and go round and round like Incy Wincy Spider, ended up going straight down the plug hole. I found a thing that worked for me was to stay nice and low at the top of each of the pumps, and to incentivize this, I tried to get down and touch the nose and the tail simultaneously. Eventually, I managed to start pumping the board up onto the vert, and again, to incentivize this, I tried to get the nose of the board up over the coping and also the tail of the board up over the coping. I found this super scary as I had to come back down the ramp, fakie, the fastest I've ever been. There was also a couple of times where I managed to knock the wheels on the coping, and luckily they didn't lip over and I didn't get launched backwards. Following on from this, it was time to attack the backside kick turn. Now, my kick turns are pretty rubbish, and this is because I hardly ever do them. When I skate the bowl, I favour the 4 wheels down carving turn. And because I'm always skating round curved bowls, I can do those carving turns, keep all 4 wheels on, and when I go for a grind, I can do a double truck carving grind. However, for the vert ramp, I tightened up my trucks to give me some more stability at that extra speed, and this meant that a carving turn is completely out of the question. So I needed to refresh my skills on the backside kick turn. The main issue I was having is I open up my shoulders at the top of the turn and then execute the turn with my hips and my knees. So I started to focus my attention on really leading the turn with the shoulder and trying not to open that shoulder out. I also found that if I could bend up my knees at the top of the turn, it gave me more purchase to pump back down, which gave me more speed and thus more height on the next kick turn. And eventually I started being able to just scratch that truck across the coping for a backside slash grind. The next mission was to try and pop out up onto the deck of the vert ramp. Whew. Now I found this pretty intimidating, and I found that speed was my friend for this one. Also, to start with, I found that I wasn't even bothering to try and get the board. I was just jumping off the board and sort of landing on the top, trying to get up on the top. But that was of no use because I had no board. So eventually I found a way to pump up the transition hard, keep my knees tucked in, try and grab the board with my front hand as I launched up onto the coping. Now I have to say that all of this pumping is pretty exhausting. I was just turning into a sweaty mess. So this incentivized me to try the drop-in. Regular viewers will know that for taller and steeper ramps, I favour coming in off of the axles. This is because I'm useless at the tail drop and it scares me to death. I find that if I come in off the axles, I can get nice and low and just offer the board in. And because I'm nice and low, it gives me somewhere to pump from. Also, I found in the early stages, if I did come a cropper, being low to the ramp really helped with it not being too emotional. The biggest ramps I tried to drop into up until this point were around about 9 foot with a smidgen of vert on the top. So the Boom Skate School 12-foot vert ramp was a considerable level up. Now I have to say that trying this for the first time on a proper size vert ramp was pretty scary. So I chose my moment, harnessed the energy of the crowd, launched myself in and luckily managed to get away with it. Next job was to start getting some air. After all, that's what a vert ramp is all about. The first air Greg showed me was the air to fakie. We went through it on the flat ramp just to get the technique, and then I started trying to go up, do a little early grab and pull the board off of the ramp, come back down fakie. Now this for me was pretty scary. To start with, I overcompensated by not wanting to fall backwards, and this made me shoot out into the ramp, board flying across. Oh my gosh. Next thing I did was overcompensate and then fall backwards into the ramp. But this gave me the confidence to really pull hard on the grab, see if I could get those wheels off. And eventually, with a bit of practice, I started working these up higher and higher. The next thing I wanted to add into my trick bag was the backside early grab air. Now I've already tinkered with these over a hip and also in the bowl, but I've never tried them on the flat wall of a vert ramp. So it took a little bit of adjustment just to get the grab correct and also get the feel of pulling the board off of the ramp and then having the courage to commit to coming back down. But after getting a couple of successful attempts round lower down the ramp, I found I got the feel for it, and it actually became easier the higher I went up the ramp. The more on the sort of steep part of the ramp I got, the less I needed to pull off and the bigger the air I could get. The final thing I was itching to give a go was my dream trick, the front side air. Now I've been trying this one off because I've always considered it to be a bit above my pay grade. First job was to work on the front side kick turn. Now these are my arch nemesis because I never do them. Again, in a bowl, I prefer to carve my turns with all 4 wheels on the concrete. And when I go for my grinds, I do those as front side double truckers. So coming onto a wall that isn't curved like a bowl, I found a lot different, and also trying to do that frontside kick turn was pretty intimidating. To start with, I was absolutely nowhere. I was coming a cropper left, right and centre. However, after a while, I managed to get a few low down to get the feel, and then eventually started to get the courage to keep on sending them up higher and higher. Once I got the frontside kick turn, it was a case of trying to do that kick turn whilst making the grab. For this one, I was grabbing just behind my knee on the toe side and then trying to swizz it round whilst doing the kick turn. And then once I got my courage up, I started trying to pull the wheels off of the ramp. And again, I was coming a cropper left, right and centre. However, after a few attempts, I managed to land a micro frontside air, and all my dreams came true. It felt like I was up there looking at the curvature of the earth, and of course my wheels were 1 centimetre off, and I was about a quarter of the way up the vert ramp. However, with a bit more practice, I was determined to get these a little bit higher. I found riding the vert ramp a real buzz, and it served up a fair few thrills and spills. Moving forward, it was always my goal to drop in on vert. Every time I offered it up, it just looked mental. The board sort of sticks out in mid-air and there's no transition to see as you stand over. It's just like an elevator shaft. However, a couple of years ago, whilst I was still relatively inexperienced, I decided to throw caution to the wind and attempt to drop in to my local bowl. After all, what could possibly go wrong? This is 9 foot with a smidgen of vert on top. I offered it up, got the courage up, sent it in and straight to the bottom. I landed on my head. And again, it's fair to say that this compounded all my fears. And I thought that dropping in on vert was possibly something that I'd never be able to do. During the past couple of years, I've gone back in and offered up the vert drop-in, but there are a couple of things that were holding me back. Number one, of course, is fear and that psychological barrier from coming a cropper. The second thing is all the local spots I like to skate are bowls and mini ramps where you can roll in or drop in on sections without any vert and still build enough speed to do your run. So therefore there's no incentive to drop in on the vertical sections. However, lately I've developed a bit of a lust for the vert ramp, and whilst I've enjoyed the process of learning to pump from the bottom and get up to the top that way, the novelty is worn off pretty quickly. Aching legs, sweating profusely, and I also find that I've got limited energy once I get up to the lip to try and practice whichever tricks or manoeuvres I'm trying to work on. So at this point I decided enough was enough. It was finally time to face my fears and learn the drop-in. Luckily, my coach Greg Nowick at Boom Skate School has been through the process of teaching people to drop in on vert ramps many times. The first exercise was just to feel out the transition by coming up fakie and then going back down regular, and also performing a little tail tap, which got me used to bringing the front wheels down and just feeling that whoosh down the ramp. I also did a fair few of my axle in drop-ins. This helped get my special bar up, boosted the confidence. I could also feel that whoosh of speed and again familiarise myself with the transition. Following this preparation, it was crunch time. This is where I found having a coach on hand to be really valuable. For me, dropping in on vert was 100% a psychological issue. Such a binary nature to dropping in, you're either going to make it or it's going to end pretty emotionally. So I needed to be coached through the psychological process of finally making the decision to properly attempt my first drop-in. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I made a real meal of this. I must have stood up there and offered up that board at least 15 times and it must have taken me a good 10 minutes. There were a couple of times I really thought I was going to go for it, and then I just did a big bad horsey refusal at the first fence, pull her back, start the process again. I started to get quite frustrated, and I felt that maybe having a bit of a roar might release some adrenaline. Pretty embarrassing for people to watch a grown man roaring in frustration. But I felt once I got that out of my system, I was ready to properly give it a go. Kept to my rhythm. 1, 2, 3. After this first drop-in, I did a bit of a celebratory run around the skate park with my t-shirt over my head. Oh my gosh. And then got back up there because I was eager to go for 2 to make it true. I practiced this quite a few times more, got a little bit cocky, took my eye off the process and managed to spoon it over the front. Now this wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I found that as long as I stayed low and made sure I made it to the bottom of the transition, if I did spoon off the front, just landed on my knee pads and it wasn't too bad. I think the worst thing I could have done here is not commit forward, just hold back, and I think that would be properly dreadful. Now this was a pretty exciting day for me. 2 years of waiting, procrastinating, wimping out. So I couldn't wait to test my skills, go round and attempt the drop in on all the ramps and all the extensions I've been wanting to drop in on for so long. So I've arrived here at Spit and Sawdust Skate Park in Cardiff for stop number 3 of the UK Vert series. Just had a quick warm up on the ramp. It is fast and tight. I've been training up at Mount Hawk, which is a bigger ramp and a bit more of a mellow transition. So I'm just waiting for my time for my heat. I'm in heat number 1 of the Masters. Get a little 10-minute warm-up session before the heat, and then it's 3 runs of 30 seconds. Oh my gosh. My main goal here is to try and get 30 seconds of skating in without coming a cropper.
Okay, we're on number 1, 30 seconds on the clock. Let's make some noise for John Bishop. Student of Boom Skate School. Cruising round, double backsides. Rebel, quadruples, getting those trucks on. Let's see it get up there, backside air. 15 seconds. Keeping that backside air going off. Front wheels back over the coping. 10 seconds if you want them. 5 seconds. Straight in backside. Yeah! Backside, slashing that coping up. It's like Jack the Ripper. Backside air. Taking it to fakie. 15 seconds for you. Yeah, it's a fakie. 10 seconds, John. Right side kick turn. Oh, keeping it to fakie. 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's going to be time. Make some noise for John Bishop. Yes, buddy. That was a sick run.
Well, that's skateboard contest number 1 in the bag, and oh my gosh, what an amazing day out it has been. The crowd atmosphere was fantastic, and I didn't expect there to be such a big crowd. Everybody was super supportive. Coming into the competition, my main goal was to stick down a 30-second run, and oh my goodness, turns out 30 seconds is an awfully long time when you're skateboarding on a vert ramp. I got to about 20 seconds and I'd run out of ideas, my legs were cooked. Another issue was trying to get some practice in to get a feel for the ramp. The deck was pretty crowded and everybody was of a much better standard of dropping in than me, so it was pretty tricky to get your board on the edge in time to make the drop in and get a feel for the ramp. Also, during practice, I got it a little bit wrong, managed to come a cropper and bent my knee a little bit, so I had to nip over to the mini ramp, try and keep that loose. In the lead up to this, I've been doing a bit of practice on my local ramp at Mount Hawk, and that ramp is a lot higher and also a lot mellower in the transition. So I've been getting used to that one. So getting onto this ramp, probably a couple of feet smaller and also made out of skate light, which is a lot faster to roll across, I found the transition to be tighter and everything happened a lot quicker. Prior to my heat, there was 10 minutes of focus practice with only the people from the heat being able to take a run. And I found that bit invaluable to really feel out the ramp just prior to dropping in for my runs. On my first run, I was way too tense, proper nervous, and I came in, I managed to do about 20 seconds before I fell off. So I got back up there for my second run, and I was super stoked to have made the full 30 seconds on that one. Also got a sneaky backside grind and a few little bits of air. Once I got that full run down, I found that took the pressure off of run 3, and I managed to drop in and really enjoy that one. Coming into the competition, taking my level of experience into account, I was fairly confident I was going to end up pretty low down the results table. In fact, I was totally prepared to come in last. So it was a really nice surprise that I didn't finish last, even though the main competition I had was with myself, and the main goal I had was to try and complete and put down that 30-second run I planned. To finish up, here's a montage of some of the highlights from a lovely old day skating in Cardiff. Today I'm pretty excited because I'm here at Mount Hawk Skate Park and I'm going to be trying to go over the top of the coping, boost out the top of the vert ramp on a backside air. I've been trying these for quite a while. I've come close but nothing emphatic. So the thing I'll class as success is having the entire board visible from the back of the ramp. I'd prefer it to be a few feet out, but I think realistically a couple of inches and I'll be pretty stoked. Some of the main problems I've been having on this quest is first of all developing enough speed to even get to the top. And I've found that getting my pumps timed correctly and also wanting to get to the top has been the key ingredient to getting to the top. For my backside grinds, I find I can warm up with those, get the truck on, and then it's a case of getting a good setup backside grind, pumping both transitions, and then trying to hop out the top. I think the things that have been holding me back is number one, grabbing hold of the board too early and a bit of an early grab, and that kills my momentum as I go up the top. And also not going straight up to the coping and turning off at the last minute, sending me across sideways instead of out at the top. The main issue, however, is fear. I found in the past that the key to getting out the top of mini ramps and bowls is to actually want to get out the top of mini ramps and bowls. So literally ride across over that coping and air out of the top. So today I need to work myself into a position where the adrenaline takes over and I can boost up, throw caution to the wind, hold on to everything and bring her back in. In the past, when I've got up towards the top, start airing off with the vert, I find I need to change my body position as it's possible to slip straight off the back and slide out and the board ends up going up in the air and hitting the rafters. I've also found I need to calm down the amount of pop that I do because as I come off with the vert, end up landing quite a way down the ramp. So enough of my yakking, I'm going to get in character. I'm going to do some stretching because flexibility is a bit of a key one for getting down and getting the grab consistently. And then I'm going to warm up, see if I can get the adrenaline flowing, overcome the fear of getting a few backside grinds, and then it'll be time to try some of those backside airs. Okay, just warming up with a few backside grinds. I'm finding that it really helps if I keep my arms down by my sides. I really want to sort of have them out ready to do a bit of argy-bargy across that flat bottom, but if I can just relax, I find from that position I can get a far more potent pump. Gets me up on the backside grind a lot easier. Next up, I'm going to do a few early grab backside airs just below the coping. Okay, a few early grab backside airs coming along. Try not to pull too far out into the transition. If I do that, there's a danger of going over the front onto my shoulder. Also, landing that low means I've got no speed for the next wall. So if I'm planning to do this backside air as part of a run, it's not going to work so well. So as I get higher on the ramp, I'm going to try and relax, not pull as hard. I'm also going to try and go a little bit steeper up the ramp, not turn off, and just try and literally hit the coping. Okay, I felt the wheels bonk off the coping and the view of the world was slightly different. Oh, I could see the curvature of the earth from up there. No way I was over the top. It didn't feel any different to other times that I've bumped the coping. But I'm going to see if I can get that bonking of the wheels a little bit more consistent. Okay, that's it for this session. got the wheels off the coping a few times. Might have squeaked it by half an inch, but it was a really fun session and I learned a lot. The main thing was to go as fast as I could, try and get that backside grind before as a setup, and then go as straight up the ramp and grab as late as I really dared. I don't think this is a particularly technical trick, but it's certainly one for the head. Just all about the fear factor and trying to overcome that fear. I came out way too far on a few, landed right at the bottom, went over, shoulder barged. Didn't come off the back luckily, so that's a little bit of progress. Seems like I'm getting my body position a little bit better. Didn't have a problem with the grabs, and those backside grinds are feeling a lot better. Just trying to keep my arms down by my side, a little bit of style across that flat bottom, and it's also helping with the pump as I come up onto those backside grinds. So here we have it, the Jimmy Wilkins Pro Deck for real skateboards. This has got a graphic designed by Chris Miller on it. It's 8.86 wide and it's got a 15-inch wheelbase. This is also advertised to have a bit of a slippery bottom, so I'm not going to bother putting rails on this one. I'm going to see how that slippery bottom feels once I've rigged it all up. I'm not going to waste any time, I'm going to whack on this deck grip. I'm going to stick the camera in high speed mode. I'll see you on the other side. So there we have it, all gripped up. I'm just going to pop my original trucks and wheels on. In terms of wheels, I'm using the Spitfire 99A Formula 4 58mm OG Classics. I've got the big ball bearings in there, and I'm also using the hollow forged Indy trucks. These are 159s, which gives me an 8.75 width, which should go well with the 8.86 width of the deck. I've also put fresh Bones hardcore bushings in here and tighten the screw right down so that the trucks are nice and firm for riding the vert ramp. So there she blows, all finished. I bolted the trucks direct onto the deck for that direct feel. There's a couple of last things to do. First of all, I'm relatively new to a popsicle shaped board, so I thought I'd mark which the front is because I don't want to get it on the coping the wrong way round. So just looking at this, there's the nose, and I'm just going to pop a little bit of silver paint at the front there. Hopefully that'll save a bit of time when I go for the drop in. Well, I've just had a great session on the Jimmy Wilkins reel board. Warmed up on the mini ramp and straight away it felt really comfortable. Those new hardcore bushings though give a bit more spring to the step, as do the 58mm wheels, so I did find that I over pumped on a couple of things, but as soon as I made the adjustment it all worked out nicely. I then transferred my efforts to the deep end of the bowl just to get a feel of a bigger transition, and then it was on to the vert ramp. Firstly, on the drop-in, it felt like business as usual. Those steeper kicks on the creature deck that put the board up at a jaunty angle took a bit of getting used to. But with the real Jimmy Wilkins deck, those kicks are more like a standard board, and the look of the board out in front of the coping looked a little bit more like what I was used to, and I found that really steadied the ship for the drop-ins. Straight away, I managed to get up there and do the backside grind, and then I started doing battle with the front side kick turn. I've been trying those on the Creature Jimmy Wilkins deck and they've been coming along slowly but surely. Managed to get up to about 2 or 3 inches from the coping. Really looking forward to getting that front side grind. I was hoping to get it today, but about an hour in my back started complaining, as did my knee. So I decided to err on the side of caution, bank this session, call it a day and come back to fight another day. I selected this board because I'm a bit of a Jimmy Wilkins fan. It certainly doesn't seem to hold Jimmy back, and going forward, I thought if I have a decent vert setup, there are no excuses. Obviously, I'm a bit of a novice on vert. I am looking to progress, and I'm hoping that getting a decent vert ramp setup will help me in that pursuit.